Hello again. Welcome to the Power of Your Story. I am back again with my wife, and we are excited to talk about our topic here for the next three episodes. We decided to do something that talks about our past, our present, and our future.
Yeah, kind of like the ghost of Christmas past, Christmas
Yeah,
present,
right.
Christmas future. Yeah.
So we're going to talk a little bit about our story and the things that have happened in our past, both good and some challenging things, and kind of what shaped our identity back in those days, and kind of where it's led us to today, and then what we're thinking in the future on how we're trying to live our lives and who we're trying to promote. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a little emotional, I think. We were talking before we turned the camera on about some of the challenges we both had in our past, and our formative years have really formed us into some crazy things, and how we kind of dealt with stuff in our lives and how it's affected us, and how we brought that with us up till today. Andy's going to have a little more of her younger years that are very, very impactful. But we're excited to get going on it. So at this, we'll just start with I guess I'll turn it over to Candy and talk a little bit about her younger years.
So when we decided to do this, we thought we would break it up into different parts of our life. And we'll start with early years, talk more about teenage, maybe 20s, 30s, and go from there. So early years, memory that maybe stood out to me or some things in my early years. First thing is my dad came to get me when I was 3 from California. I moved here and then he got remarried when I was 5 to my stepmom. And during the time that I was in elementary school, I remember looking back and they became foster parents. And they had quite a few kids that came in and out of our house. One was a teenager and then younger kids. And I remember getting a call in the middle of the night, not me personally because I was little, but they got a
Yeah.
call in the middle of the
Uh,
night. And they had 2 boys that were coming in and they were brought to our house in the middle of the night and we didn't have anywhere to put them. And we had to like clear out the bottom drawer for one of the
I remember
boys
this story.
and like put blankets down there. So we had some place to sleep that night because we had nothing prepared for them. And they ended up living with us and they ended up adopting them. But when they arrived, they were in rough shape. And that was a pretty big thing during my early childhood years.
I think what I want to make sure as we start this and we start to discuss this is what we really want to share with all of you is we think what we've gone through in our identity and what shaped us has to stick with us, and we have to relive those tough things that have happened to us. It shapes who you are, but it helps me, at least now that we're talking about it, is what we've overcome and the challenges that we've gone through has shaped us to who we are today. But we don't have to stay in those challenging times, and we don't have to relive them, and we don't have to think that we are the root of the issues that went on in our life. They're all stepping stones to get us to where we are. So I want to make sure I kind of package that in a way so as we're saying these things, you can go, well, you man, I had something similar happen to me like that, or I know people who have gone through that. So I just want to make sure I package that in a way so we can, when we're sharing this, that you can get through the things that when you hear some of our stories, both good and bad, that there is a way to get out of that. And and as we share our stories, I think it'll kind of unfold in itself within the conversation. So just wanted to make sure I said that, that's crazy that you guys had to put the kids in a drawer.
It was. It was crazy just having different people in our home. But I think about how that had an impact on me and just being able to open your doors for people, being able to open your heart to people that are like disadvantaged in their life. And so that really stood out to me.
Yeah.
What about you?
I was telling her before, I'm like, my younger years, my elementary school years were pretty good. I think one of the things, and I did a podcast by myself a long time ago that I talked about who I was as a elementary school, and it makes me laugh saying it, but I'm going to say it out loud because it was my identity. I was the chubby kid. I was the one who always got teased. I was always the one that, people would laugh at me. The clothes that I wore, they were hand me downs. You know, that's what my identity was then. I just recall. I mean, I was telling you, I recall that I won a spelling bee, so I'm a very good speller. I won two.
So we do have
Um,
competition.
yes, but I'm the better speller. Anyway, I was the better speller. Anyways, so I remember that being like, whoa, that's cool. And then I remember winning student of the month when I was in. I know we're so similar. I don't know what I don't even remember what grade it was in. Third, third grade maybe. But I was like, man, I'm pretty cool. And I really remember. I was telling her I remember what I was wearing. I remember where it was in our school hallway. Like, it was such a defining moment for me that I could walk down the hallways when I was at that age and people would be like, oh, he's student of the month this year. It was just a really cool thing. So I had great memories of my elementary school years.
Elementary was, I mean, they were good during that time. So let's go forward to teenage years. Whoa, teenager.
A lot of you will relate to the teenage years. This is when, you know, we really start to form our own opinion. This is when we really start to think we're independent. We can do whatever we want to. My teenage years were a wreck, very much a wreck. And I'll share mine shortly because Candy's is pretty intense. So I'll say my teenage years were really surrounded by my parents getting a divorce, which totally threw me off. At those times, I hardly saw my dad because he would work and he'd go play sports, and I was always with my mom. And the fact that my mom, when they got divorced, she just left the house, which left me at home alone with my sisters, basically being raised by my sisters. And that's when all the trouble began. That's when, my identity was, well, my mom doesn't love me. My dad doesn't love me. He's not there. Obviously they did, but these are the things that my mind was shaped because she was no longer there. And it really had a profound effect on me. I felt like I was raising myself. Luckily, I had three older sisters who, you know, loved me and guided me as much as they could. But that really was a defining moment when that all happened. I got kicked out of school my first semester of my ninth grade year. I got kicked out for 3 months, like my whole first semester of my ninth grade year, I was gone. Went my second semester, made it. 10th grade, I made it the whole year because I played baseball. And then my 11th grade first semester, I got kicked out again for the whole semester. So basically, I was down 1 year of high school in the first 3 years, which totally from that point on is when things started to go uphill. So I'm going to leave that for now because those are the pluses that happened at that time. I'm ready to hear your story.
A shift in your family, divorce, and then the things that you took from that and started to fill your time with fighting and partying and things that you weren't supposed to be doing.
Mm, at a very early age. Yeah, because it all happened in the 14 to 15 to 16 range.
Teenage years. Okay, so I'm gonna hit just a few because I lived a lifetime, I think, in my teenage years. I will say my dad and my stepmom got divorced when I was a
Hmm.
teenager. They had been married for 10 years, I think it was, and they went through a divorce. So that had a change on me because I was very involved with my stepmom. I started to go to church and she took us to church. So that was important because my birth mother was in and out of my life. So that just had a shift for me when they got divorced. I would see my mom, my birth mom, like when she would come in and out of my life, she struggled with drugs and alcohol and had been in and out of prison her whole life and just had some challenges. She came to get me and I was 16 years old and at the time My dad and my stepmom got divorced, and I'm like, "I'm gonna go with my mom. It's gonna be great. She's gonna take me to Florida," which she did, and I was excited and thinking, "Oh, I'm gonna go on spring break in Florida." 16 years old, and we went down to see my brother, and I got to swim at a pool, and my brother lived near a college campus, and it was a fun time while I was there. As I look back, there were some things that I probably should not have been a part of at 16 years old, and I should have had a mother figure there, but she was almost, like, trying to have me do things to, like, um, not necessarily guide me, but just, like, make sure I had fun. And, I remember us driving back from Florida, and she had a brand new boyfriend that I did not know very well. Had only met him while we were down there, didn't know anything about him. And we were driving home from Florida. And on our way home, there had been a lot that had gone on in Florida. So much more that I can't even get into it. But there was a lot. And our windshield was smashed. Okay. So it was kind of smashed in from some things that had happened when I was there. And the police pulled us over. And when they pulled us over, they ran my mom's license and she had a warrant out for arrest, and we're in another state. I still had probably 10 hours to get home. They took my mom to jail and said they're keeping her, and here I was left with a stranger, and I'm like, What do I do?" And they're like, "I don't know," and, he had to drive me home, and so that was just a huge thing for me. Like, I went from this big roller coaster of having fun to some crazy life events that happened down there and some things with just family until driving home with a stranger. So that was big for me, and that was just by the time I was 16.
Fast forward for me getting kicked out of my junior year in high school. I met some guys at the school, friends of mine. I really probably don't need to say them by name. I think everybody who watches this may know who they are. But it became one of those. I had to leave everybody behind, my friends who I grew up with in the city because I got kicked out and I had no place really to go. I was basically just at home while everybody was at school. I was at home just doing nothing until I met friends who were at a private school that they were playing football at the time where I met them all, and one thing led to another, and I met a couple guys, and it now I'm really thinking about how emotional it makes me because I look at that and go, if they wouldn't have befriended me, if they wouldn't have brought me into the fold and just became my friend and just saw me for who I was, they didn't. I don't know if they really, I don't know, judged me per se. They just said, "Come hang out with us," and we did. And from that point on, my life completely did a 180. I went from being struggling and not having friends, and my identity was I was a hood rat. I was a problem kid. I was, hanging out. I was drinking. I was partying at that young age, and all of a sudden, I met people from the church, the school, and from that point on, I mean, I could write a book on everything that happened at that point. So I got into the school. I got support from my buddy's friend or parents who got me in the school and basically helped support me. They got me a job. I was working at a place just so I can have some money. And it's crazy to look back at what my life could have been if it wasn't for somebody reaching a hand down and saying, "You're see you struggling, but I got you. Let me pick you up. Let's hang out. Let's be friends. Let's see what this relationship is all about." And to this day, 37 years later, they are my brothers, like they are my family. And without them, I could be really in a bad spot. And I could have lived that way. And it just really makes me thank God for having people who didn't look at me for, let's just be real, the color of my skin, the place where I grew up. I mean, you can make these preconceived notions on, at that point, who I was and where I came from. But it was just a matter of them just saying, you know, let's go hang out. Let's see what this turns out to be. I mean, the school was a blessing. I got to, got invited to the church. Remember running out of the church a few times because I thought they were crazy. I was like, I am not going into that place again. And come full circle again, 37 years later, I'm at the church that I ran out of a few times because of the people and how they treated me. And there's more to that story, but I'll end it at that point right there.
Boy,
I should have probably ended with the good story, and you could have shared that part of it.
we took different journeys, and my teenage years and early years just had a lot more challenge along the way. Before we even started today, I was like, what do I share? Like, how much of this can I share? And when we prayed, and I just asked for God to guide our conversation, because our purpose of sharing this stuff is just to connect with people out there that might be lost, that might be a little bit broken. They need somebody relatable to them. Uh, And we are honestly about one person. If we reach one person,
Yeah,
well, we're doing what we're supposed to do. We don't ever want to bring um like attention to ourselves. It's more about
right.
God and our story. So I am gonna share, and I was debating on whether I was gonna share one or two things. So I'll share these last couple from my teen years because I could do hours and hours just on that.
Save it for your book.
Save it for my
Save a
book.
majority for your book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll save it for that. But a hard thing, and I will share this because I think there's someone that needs to know they can get past it. This is something that hasn't been talked about publicly in a lot of places. I mean, my kids know and some family know, but when I was a teenager, was assaulted. And so I was sexually assaulted, but I did not tell a soul and I kept it to myself for years and years and years and years. Honestly, until late 30s. I didn't tell anybody. I just kept it all to myself. So that had a huge, huge impact on me, obviously, and just shaping just my view of things. And I moved from that into being a young, pregnant teenager, not from that assault, but from my first husband. And I was pregnant at 17. I walked across my high school stage 8 months pregnant, and my last name at the time was, like, ABA, and I was, like, super pregnant. That was fun.
Just one through.
Like, the first few. And then I got married right after I had her, moved to another country, and all of that was before I was 19.
Yeah.
So, I can smile through it all now, but it was not easy.
And obviously, knowing the backstory, the mere fact that you went through that trauma, that tragic life at those formidable years, to me, I look at it as such a testament that she went through these very difficult times to deal with it. And to top it all off, she didn't really have a mother she could go to per se. It's not something I guess you would share with your dad as well. So she bottled this in. And I just want to tell her how proud of her I am because she had all this stuff built up, but yet she worked her tail off to not only get a couple of college degrees, but she raised a young daughter at the time and became a very accomplished professional with all of these things. So I think when I said it earlier is some of us have gone through these traumas and gone through these issues in our lives. And sometimes we're saddled with that is who we are. And Candy is a very clear example of she did all these things, she went through all these things, yet she fought her way through it to become a very accomplished, not only business person, but she become an accomplished woman, an accomplished mother. We will talk about the husband and wife thing in a later date, but she was accomplished and did all these things with all of the trauma that she went through. And that is just a testament to her and how you can get through it. You just have to find the inner strength. You got to find the faith
there.
exactly.
Not even my strength. Yeah, she held me through every single part of my life. Like, who would have ever thought, that I would have made it out of all of those things? I'm riding back with a stranger. He protected me. I'm had to deal with assault. He still brought me through and didn't have me crumble underneath it. I was a young teenage mom. I was
Yeah,
married, moved to another country at 19, and just had some challenges, and he was there the whole time, like, "I got you." So before I even really knew it, he was there holding me the whole time.
I was just gonna say there's a song that pretty much chokes me up every time I hear it, and they sang it today in church. And it was that he was there the whole time. What is the name of the song? You guys, I need you to help me on here when we post this.
We're gonna think of it as soon as
When we turn it off, when we're done, we're gonna know what it is. But it is about he was there all the time. It could be a CC Winans song. It could be
we'll
somebody.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go
Anyway,
there.
but it just makes me think of that we may have not even known it, but God had a plan, had a purpose for our lives. Let's be real. Our 20s, her and I, when we met, were a wreck. We were an absolute wreck. We were a wreck. I can't even we were just an absolute I was married and divorced. We were married and divorced. Our 20s were a free for all. We hung out, we partied, we just lived the extent of what we could live in our 20s, and it really makes me think God had his hand on us. People didn't like me. I was not a good person. I made so many mistakes in my 20s. I had a young daughter, and it really you look back at it now and go, God had a plan. And here we are sitting in front of a camera talking about all the challenges we've had, and to thank God through it all, we still have made it to where we are today with an outlook on life. We both have this great outlook on the future of our lives and where we're going and the things that are happening in our lives today. And it's all really a testament of he was there. We did the hard work at times, and we're going through it. And here we are present day doing these things.
Okay, so I wanna go to the 20s for a second.
Don't go right ahead.
And I know we're gonna fly through our 20s a little bit fast, but we got married at
I was
29.
29.
29, right? Yes, because I had Lily at 30. So we got married when we were 29, but we were friends before we ever got married. We dated, we didn't date. We dated, we didn't date.
Let's not go
We're
there.
trying to figure it all out. But that's good. We were figuring it out. We were always friends.
Hmm.
So before we ever got married, we loved hanging out. We had a lot of fun. We laughed. He used to dance all the time. He doesn't dance with me.
Yep,
He used to
heard
dance
that
all
many a
the time.
times.
Oh, there were a lot of like challenging times, but fun times in our 20s. And then outdoor wedding in Clarkston, and that's where we live now. So that was fun. And we did not have anybody stand up. And when we got married the second time, our 2 daughters at the time
Hmm.
were, our people that stood up with us. We didn't have anybody else, and that was
Yeah.
that was fun in their cute little blue dresses
Mm.
that they were standing up there in our wedding.
What a life. And I know we're kind of we're shortening a lot of this stuff because there is a lot of things that we could really go down the rabbit hole and really tell people the things that have gone on. And I mean, we did to a certain extent, but the fact that we are here, we are fighting every day to become the people who God has designed us to be. We're craving this purpose in our lives. We both are doing things in our friend group, in our community, with our great church. We're working there and we're giving back as much as we can. We've created some great relationships, and it's if you would have said to us 25 years ago, 30 years ago that we would be in a church and we would be serving and we would be doing the things that we're doing, we would laugh. We would have laughed at you then because we were totally different people.
So as you think about your 20s, I know obviously us getting married, that was a pivotal moment. The other thing that I think about from these is that that's when I received my undergraduate degree.
Hmm.
So I went from all of those crazy teenage years to going through a divorce, putting myself through college, and saying, okay, I'm done with this. I'm going to go after things. And then you and I connecting, being friends, hanging out, making a lot of really great friends. We had a lot of fun, really dumb things that we did, but then getting married and anything else from your 20s before we go to the next like kind of middle of our
Yeah. I think the biggest thing I wanna stress about my 20s is the people that we grew up with, and this is crazy, the people we hung out in our 20s, our friends, we we have such a great community of friends. Our friends have been lifelong friends. The people that we hang out today were the people we hung back out with in our teens and 20s. Like, these are my brothers and sisters. And it's crazy to me that we have this bond with this community of friends, and that's what really stands out to me about our 20s is we still have these same friends, the same group of friends from our 20s.
because our kids nobody that really is you. You have always been
Yeah.
really, really good at keeping friends. I think girls can drift away sometimes because
Hmm.
we have kids and we have all these things, but um, you've always kept them close. And I mean, it is a blessing when we go and we do things and we do birthday dinners with
Yeah.
our friends. Like we have this huge group,
Right.
and people are always amazed at that.
I think the reason, honestly, I think the reason why we've stayed close is we've all we come from the same neighborhood. So we all grew up with some of these same challenges and these same city lifestyles that we grew up in. So we can relate with each other. Like, there's some guys who grew up in, in richer areas who I mean, they're my brothers as well. But a lot of the people that are one of our friend groups is because we've gone through the same stuff. We've had the same challenges. We grew up in the same neighborhoods, and we're all still, we talk constantly. Some of those same people come to my men's group. Some of those same people are going to the church that we go to. So it's come full circle, and it's been such a blessing to have those same group of people who you went through the trenches with, who are still with you through these times. So that's what I remember about my 20s.
Okay, 30s. Kids, right? I think as I look back at 30s, lots of fun kid memories and raising kids. We had Celeste and Lily, and we had Kayla and Amanda, and they were all different ages, but just I had so many fond memories. There were still challenges there, but fond memories. Career-wise, it was going well for me. I went back to school, got my master's degree, and things were going well, but we had like marital challenges that we didn't let everybody see throughout our whole 30s, right? It looked great on the outside, but that wasn't something we just kind of pushed it aside. We didn't show people
Yeah.
much about those things, and I would say that went on 30s and 40s,
Yeah.
some of those, but
I,
good things that we had.
I mean, they were family is obviously it's for us, it's really one of our, what would you call it?
Value.
Yeah, family is our core value. We've always, and I was raised that way. We were always around family, but I look at my 30s so different today than I did back then. My 30s were a challenge. I don't think I grew up to become an adult till a few years ago. I think I stayed a little kid and didn't want to grow up. And I mean, I feel like the old commercial for Kids Are Us. I'm a kid, and I just did not want to grow up. And I had this wonderful woman sitting next to me who loved me through all my you know kid issues. And so 30s to me were really just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I look at what we're doing today, and the 30s to me is, if it wasn't for Candy really just digging her feet in and loving me, I would not be with her because of all the struggles we went through. While there were good times in there, I would classify my 30s as basically crazy. And a very immature Tommy was that person. The challenges that I went through and mentally and just being a jerk, if I'm just being honest. And I look at that now today and go, thank God that he had his hand on our marriage. He had his hand on our kids, and because what could have became a completely broken and shell of a family, I think today is as tight as it has been in years. And all I can do is thank God for that. Even with my past family, I'm closer to them now and love and appreciate them for sticking with me when it could have been easy just to dismiss me and push me to the side.
Well, and I think about for me, and it's probably just one of the ways that it protected it, like protected our marriage, is I was adamant that I was not getting divorced a second time. I was not gonna have my kids raised in broken families. Like, I'd already gotten divorced early, and I'm like, "I'm not doing it. I am fighting like crazy for this marriage, even if that means I can't address some of these issues right now." And I just put my head down into family stuff, was really, really there for all of the stuff with the kids. I really wanted to just be a really good mom, and I really worked a lot too.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah.
was really focused on growing my career at the time. And I think what that was a distraction from some of the marriage issues,
Hmm.
but it allowed us to sustain being married
Yeah.
because when we would have challenges, I'd go, okay, let me focus on my kids, let me focus on my career. And I think that was almost like a protective mechanism that I had during that time.
Yeah. And this is why I wanted to say what I said earlier is I could I could have stayed there, but I know people were praying for me. I know even through the struggles, God was still there. Just like he was in our teenage years and early years, there was still that, I guess, guidance, or still that he saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. I had very low self-esteem, very insecure. People looked at me and thought I was the life of the party, and I may have been on the outside, but I was struggling within. And I say all that now to look back and go, thank God, thank God that he was there. Thank God he blessed me with a wife who would not give up on me, for great kids who really were just great kids. I didn't really have any major issues with these girls. And it's been a roller coaster ride. It's been a great ride, and I am glad I went through some of that, because I think at the end of the day, without those challenges and then those valleys, we don't really realize what we can do and how we can overcome these things. But you have to put some work into it, which I never wanted to do until recently. And there's been a lot of prayer together, a lot of soul searching.
And I think that'll take us to where we want to talk about next time is all about what's gotten us to our present. And I just realized getting at the time, right? We could spend hours talking about our whole life and our past. Is there anything else that stood out to you, maybe in the 30s, early 40s? And we could probably end it about that time era, and then we'll pick up next time with like
Present.
40s to present.
Hmm.
Anything else from those times you think are important to call out?
I mean, besides Lily, I mean, which was basically our 30s, having,
Really, the last
yeah,
Kayla, Amanda. I mean, we went through young kids and teenage years and
right.
all of that.
Well, we both had, I mean, we had Kayla and you had Amanda both when we were teenagers. So that was in our 20s. Celeste at the end of, the 90s throughout. So I think just the whole family aspect of our 30s and growing as a family is was a turning point for me, basically, both good and bad though. So yeah.
Okay, so we'll wrap up with that part now, and we'll go into 40s and present day. We're in our 50s next time. So for me, we always think about what are some things we want to lead with. What's the purpose of us sitting up here and talking about ourselves. It's not one, just as a reminder for us, it's just to highlight God throughout all of our story. I would say, looking back at my life, the thing that I would want people to know is that we are not defined by every one of those hard moments that we have. We're not defined by the challenges. And it's okay to fall down sometimes, right? And knowing that God is there to pick you back up, it shapes you. I don't look back at anything in my life and go, I regret it or I do things like that. It wasn't easy, but I don't regret anything from my past because it truly has shaped me and I'm grateful that, I was able to get through everything that I was able to get through and find God in the middle of it all. That's what I would leave with.
And I think the power of your story for me when I thought of this thing was I wanted to be able to share the struggles and the things that I've gone to and to understand that what I've gone through, there is power to someone else who sees that you may have gone through something similar. Because let's be real, I've said it before, we're not reinventing new issues. Somebody has gone through an issue similar to what you've gone through. It may not be the same, but we've all gone through similar things. The fact that we are both sitting here today through all of our um, things in life that have happened to us, and to sit here and tell you you aren't that person from before. You don't need to be there. You don't need to let the struggles of your past define your future. We are we can renew ourselves. And if you do it daily and you create a way to renew yourself every morning to be somebody you can be proud of at the end of the day and look back and go, I was better today than I was yesterday. is- and it could be incremental. You don't have to be 100% better yesterday or today than you were yesterday. If you were a 0.1% better today, you're making progress. And that's what, for me, the power of your story is all about, is showing you that you in your past can get through it. You just have to believe in yourself. So thank you guys so much for listening to us, and let's continue to love, listen, and encourage someone today. Thank you for listening. Bye.